in their own right, and that if you impose too much, your desires on her, even without pushing them or forcing
In 2012, I began teaching a postgraduate module in documentary filmmaking for the MA in Film and Television at the University of Birmingham. The most overtly academic of 6 modules on the MA, including research skills, work placement, and an audiovisual dissertation, the module had run for several years, with the objective of providing students with a critical and theoretical understanding of documentary film.
How does it feel? I feel like a big supporter. That's how. Does it matter of what?
On taking over the MA in 2013, I took the opportunity to overhaul all of the modules, with an emphasis on finding ways to break down the barriers between theory and practice.
Hearing somebody talk about it and actually looking at it is different.
Making the suite of modules more holistic, networked, and mutually reinforcing.
You can entangle across time. You can entangle into the future and the past. You can entangle through space.
But also acknowledging a simple fact. Whatever the designed learning objectives of a specific module, students have their own objectives for being on the MA. They see it as a stepping stone into industry, and they invest handsomely in that premise. Consequently, employability is built into every module. For documentary filmmaking, this meant a reconception. It still remains a central part of the MA, but has also been augmented to offer real resonance for students with their own filmmaking and practice-based research. This film reflects on the evolution of the modules via an analysis of 3 films added to the screening roster. Each exemplifies particular formal and rhetorical strategies associated with documentary, but also pushes in different ways against its boundaries, and serves as a gateway to other modes of filmmaking beyond. Documentary is a term with lots of baggage. So where do we begin to unpack it? Let's start with the last film we currently show on the course. A cinematic escapade with one of the medium's most notorious tricksters.
Ladies and gentlemen, by way of introduction, this is a film about trickery, fraud, about lies.
Regarded by many as an essay film, FFake is also, on at least one level, a documentary. An investigation into fakery carried out by a great faker.
You see how it works. All the performers, except one, acting away like crazy for us without getting paid for it.
In class, the interesting question is not so much what it documents, as how.
It's whether it's a good fake or a bad fake.
Its form reveals the porous boundaries of documentary, how its mechanisms and truth claims are largely indistinguishable from fiction. And each year, it encourages students to push at similar boundaries, producing highly reflexive and essayistic work.
How can we believe that is true?
That's so boring. I'm not doing that anymore. That's awful. I'm not giving up, because we're not giving up. I'm just changing it a little bit. Halfway through.
It's even inspired a PhD student to produce a performative AV lecture on the film.
Until then, thanking you for your attention. I remain, as always, obediently yours.
Would you take this away, please, and bring me this steak au poivre? Thanks a lot.
If FFake invites us to consider documentary as a genre of fiction, what does it mean when a documentary asks us to consider it a memoir? This is the question we're invited to ask by Kirsten Johnson's Camera Person, an autobiography built almost exclusively from B-roll shot by Johnson for 24 other documentaries. As you might expect, Camera Person is a mine of good practice and camera technique, but class discussion centres more on issues of the self and reflection. Ethically, the film offers numerous ways to contemplate duty of care to participants, but also to the self. It reveals the complexities of what it can actually mean to document, to see and witness. Students are encouraged to think about their own research projects in this light. What is their own vulnerability in relation to the story they're trying to tell?
You're making me cry even though I don't understand them.
That's so sad.
We also discuss the engaging subjectivity of the form of Johnson's memoir, using the fragments of the stories of others to tell her own.
That's what quantum entanglement means. It means that there's another underlying layer of nature that we haven't discovered yet.
For students, this is a valuable critical and creative concept, revealing that documentary voice comes in many forms, not just formal exposition, but also revealing the mutability of the archive. This idea is also developed in the third film I'd like to talk about, Adam Curtis's The Power of Nightmares, The Rise of the Politics of Fear, a series of 3 films comparing neoconservatism and radical Islamism.
Those dreams failed, and today people have lost faith in ideologies.
Where Camera Person opens up questions about how the filmmaking process interacts with memory, reflexivity, and selfhood, documentary is often affiliated to history with a capital H. Adam Curtis's films, this one included, take a particular and contentious approach. Essayistic, agitprop, and looking to address grand political and ideological ideas through a combination of polemical voiceover and innovative use of archive.
Instead of delivering dreams, politicians now promise to protect us from nightmares.
For some, Curtis's use of non-expository archive, in which the clips and music serve not so much to illustrate the arguments as to weave fanciful and seductive arabesques around them, is less innovation and more distraction. For Guy Walters, Curtis is essentially a conspiracy theorist with pizzazz. If one were to read the scripts, he says, one would realise that Curtis's arguments are disturbingly thin and are only taken seriously by naive young left-wingers. In class, we ran an exercise to engage this idea. I removed the video from a section of the film and asked students to write down their own ideas for what an audience might see based only on the audio. The following year, this exercise evolved into a visualization assessment in which paired students responded to a piece of text in a video or storyboard. This year, it was focused further, with students producing videographic epigraphs, drawing on a piece of critical text that we'd encountered on the course and juxtaposing it with material from one audiovisual text. The results were diverse and dynamic, with students feeding back that the exercise gave them new insight into the material, as they had to really understand it in order to use it meaningfully in the edit. The assessment provides an opportunity to bring together theory and practice, for students to engage critical and creative thinking as complementary processes, and to do so through a form which engages the tension between logocentric academic cultures and the increasingly image-centred technological societies in which they are embedded, and into which our students are ultimately headed. Which brings us neatly, back around to pedagogy. These are just 3 films from 10 or so screened each year. But it need not be these. Some years it isn't. Other films can and do work just as well.
And how right he was.
It should not exist that one single person makes a decision about what's good or what's bad.
But the underlying intentions remain the same. That each film connects and resonates. I think of this as part of what I like to call the Dirk Gently School of Pedagogy.
My methods of detection are based on an almost unswerving belief in the fundamental interconnectedness of all things.
I too believe in the fundamental interconnectedness of all things. Documentary, essay, objective, subjective. In the vast Venn diagram, everything overlaps with everything else. All knowledge interconnected. After all, isn't that what a university is?
I feel entangled with you already.
Yeah.
Some people know what time it is, some people don't.